How does Baba speak to my heart? As humans, we are constantly trying to communicate meaning to one another through words. Yet words themselves are unstable carriers. A single word may contain centuries of inherited use, emotional association, philosophy, ritual, memory, and cultural conditioning. Even when two people use the same word, they may not mean the same thing by it internally. We struggle constantly to communicate meaning through the limitation of words. But then Baba comes and speaks to me and to all of his children. And he does not speak through a separate divine language, completely detached from ordinary human culture. No, he speaks through ordinary Hindi, which is already saturated with inherited devotional meaning. Words such as bhakti and bhavna, gyan, manmanabhav, purity, maya. These words already existed inside the listeners before Baba ever used them. And they were not neutral words. They carried story, songs, rituals, emotional attachment, reverence, imagery, habits of worship, and inherited relationships to the divine accumulated over generations. A Hindi speaking listener would not hear these words abstractly because the words already carried a living devotional world inside them. And yet, Baba uses these same words differently, not by discarding them entirely, but by rearranging their relationships. Bhakti is not simply discarded. Bhavna is not discarded. Love, reverence, longing, and devotion remain present, but they can't become redirected through recognition. This is where the image of the knot enters our churning. A knot is not pure falseness. The rope itself remains the same rope, but its strands have become frayed and entangled in ways that distort order, distort relationship and function. And Baba comes and unties the knots, partly through explanation, but also through rearrangement. Existing meanings become reorganized. Existing relationships between words become reorganized. Existing devotional orientations become reorganized. If Baba is speaking through an ordinary language which already carries an inherited devotional meaning, why do souls with no Hindi background and no bhakti culture still experience unmistakable recognition through the translated Murli? Reflect on your own experience for a moment. What exactly occurs between the meaning in the words and the language spoken during recognition? When we know as humans, even when we are sincere, we often fail to communicate exactly what we mean. Baba uses the arrow striking the target as an image to remind us of what a clean instrument does, allowing the arrow to strike accurately. Sloppy meaning produces sloppy remembrance, and sloppy remembrance weakens yoga. And weak yoga weakens dharana. And weak dharana introduces static into service. Then the arrow does not strike the target cleanly. Recognition itself may be the first moment in which the arrow strikes the target directly. Because in recognition, something changes in the ordinary relationship between language and meaning. The words remain ordinary words. The language remains historically conditioned. And yet the meaning arrives with extraordinary precision. Not merely conceptual precision, but relational precision. The soul does not merely decode information from a sentence. The soul experiences being reached. And in that moment of recognition, the ordinary instability between words, meaning, language briefly disappears. The words do not feel approximate, negotiated, or symbolic in the ordinary human sense. The meaning arrives directly to the soul. The soul simultaneously recognizes the one speaking, the meaning carried through the words, and the self as the one being addressed. This is why recognition feels so sacred and private. Other people can help create the conditions for this. Centers, conduct, merely, atmosphere, honest service, all matter. But the recognition itself belongs to the relationship between the soul and God. This may be why service requires so much humility and cleanliness. Recognition cannot be manufactured through pressure, performance, or over-explanation. The task of the instrument is to reduce static so the arrow can strike the target cleanly. Accurate words matter. Clean remembrance matters. Dharana matters. The atmosphere created through service matters because all of these become part of the conditions through which another soul may one day experience recognition for themselves. Thank you, Baba.